I've never seen anything like it before, and to attempt to hit the ball out of there is pure madness.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Cameron Smith.
This is the one that I've always wanted to win since I was a little kid. So it just feels pretty amazing to be able to get it done today.
It's amazing that it's my destiny to be the first Aussie to win. Just incredible.
Hello and welcome to another special major championship episode of Playing from the Tips, with our 116th episode dialed into the 125th US Open Championship at Oakmont. Jimmy Emanuel as host yet again, charged with keeping us on task and primarily each week tallying up the enormous winning and top 10 numbers from each week and our so-called experts. The first of those arrives into this week, unlike Scotty Scheffler, in somewhat indifferent form, having tipped two major winners in a row, but then last week managed to not record our episode. It is the Jekyll and Hyde of golf podcasting, Rod Murray.
It's a journey, Jimmy.
Yeah.
There's no destination,
No.
and we just keep on pedaling.
Literary stuff off the top there from me. It's pretty sharp, I've got to tell you. Yeah. Next, if you were to look up delusions of grandeur, golf in the dictionary, there would be, frankly, a lot of people. But when it comes to major weeks, no greater exponent of the art than our Adrian Logue. Logue, welcome.
Thank you, Jimmy.
I think that's pretty fair.
Sure.
I like that you've taken possession of him too. He's now our Adrian.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like when you say friend of the show and it's made up.
I've been looking for a Logue for a long time. It's just nice to finally have one.
You've got one.
You've got one. Yeah,
we've got one.
This is the moment each week when we reflect on last week before we get stuck into the US Open and some LPGA action. I think for all of us, Ryan Fox is going to be the primary highlight.
Yeah, not just us, I don't think. I would imagine he's popular wherever he goes because he's just a genuinely good bloke.
We claim every New Zealander just about with success, but Ryan Fox more so than others.
Yeah, and he bristles at the notion, if you ever say it to him. He doesn't like that at all. But I think it's
harder to claim as the son of an All Black. Yeah. There's nothing more New Zealand than an All Black. 100%. But he won our Order of Merit here. He hasn't
lived over here, though, has he?
No.
It's only the ones who've sort of lived over here that I think we can start to leave.
Oh, I don't know. You're restricting things there. There's a couple we need to claim.
Yeah.
Fox okay. I know what you're saying, but...
It was very impressive, though.
He's
second PGA Tour win in
Yes,
a month.
And look, not that there's any sort of truth to it, but I think there's a stigma to the opposite field events in some ways.
Well, you said it.
Previous win, yeah.
After that podcast, you said, he needs to do a proper win or something.
Kind of.
Words.
Yeah, and there he did. And he has.
Yeah.
And in terrific style too. An important tournament, Canadian Open, historic tournament, everything about it.
Open to Canada.
Tick.
Yeah.
The Open to Canada.
Speaking of laying it on people previously and then them succeeding, I believe last week your words were, what happened to Jennifer Cup?
I know.
She goes and wins on the LPGA.
I saw that. Yeah, three round event though.
Okay. So you have...
But I was staggered by that. Fantastic. Good to see.
Yeah, I was very excited.
Shouldn't be a surprise, Jimmy, as we said last week.
No.
What a hitter of the ball.
Yeah. A tremendous quality player. Came out so early with success and then, it's hard to keep that stuff.
It's derailed more than one player over
Correct.
the years. Yeah.
Joaquin Niemann wins again at the Live Golf event. It was hampered by rain. It was absolutely soaked in the end. But Phil Mickelson in contention and hold an amazing chip pitch, whatever you want to call it, almost over his own head. There's a bit of excitement, but it just still struggled to get cut through.
Is that all we can expect from Phil Mickelson these days? Is that once or twice a year he'll bob up with a crazy shot and a decent round or something?
Could be close to playing his last US Open this week.
Yeah.
He's getting very close to that.
Would that be a story?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You want to talk about outsiders?
Absolutely.
In every sense of the word.
And then Connor Syme, who's another one, who is just a great person who's played out here a lot, won in Europe, and his best friend Ewan Ferguson finished not far behind him. Both gave me a warm heart. You, similarly?
I like Connor Syme. He had another one who had a really good start to his career very early, very young. Yeah. And it's good to see him still out there grinding away and winning.
Yeah.
Shows how difficult it is. And it's about way more than just being a good player.
Correct.
Once you get to a certain level. Other things have to...
Another one of those ones, his old man owns and runs a driving range and golf centre, so just spent his whole life hitting golf balls, basically.
That's just a great place to grow up.
Yeah.
If you're into golf, just not just the range and the access to it, but just the people and the talk and the chatter. When you go to St Andrews, it's all people talk about it. So you go to the pub,
Yep. As I said, one of my main jobs each week is to count our successes, and last week there was 3 top 10s, no wins, which at the almost midpoint of the year, we have 30 wins and 75 top 10s, all of which, Rod, you know are unbeatable for a golf podcast talking in front of toddler milk cans.
Yeah, actually, I think you're right.
I think so.
I think it's the milk cans that absolutely seal it.
Yeah.
Toddler milk cans.
Has the magazine had any inquiries as to why we keep talking about
referencing
not that I'm aware of. I'd like that. I'd like a little question as to what is going on.
You've got a newborn out there, give us a call. We can put you into...
Yeah, we're not going to give any names or anything. It's not a paid endorsement, but we are somewhat in the game. We've got skin in the game. On to this week and the 125th Men's US Open at Oakmont Country Club in Pennsylvania. Dustin Johnson, of course, won here last time. Bryson DeChambeau is the defending champion. Scotty Scheffler won the last major. Rory McIlroy the one before that. All that shapes for a pretty good major championship week, I would have thought.
Should have the whiff of something special, shouldn't it? The combination of the course, 125 years is kind of a bit of a milestone. The Rory thing, Scheffler, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not feeling the buzz quite yet.
You're not excited?
It's too early in the week.
What does it take to get you excited these days, though?
Yeah, a great question.
It's been a long time since we've had an answer to that, bloke. So we're still looking.
Yeah,
having taken possession of you's given me a little bit of a bit of a bump.
The jam donuts we had before.
I don't know.
He seemed pretty excited by jam donuts. Yeah.
Am I in the minority?
I think it's a funny one here with it being a long weekend the week before, so I don't have as much golf stuff happening on Monday, so I don't pay as much attention, I suppose. Yeah. So maybe. I don't know if
Does the compressed schedule contribute?
It does, yeah. It's sort of like, we're into another major, and it won't be until Thursday or Friday. I think they would start to look at it. Oh, okay, well, let's pay attention to this thing.
Yeah, I'm not so dead yet that I could just get up on Friday and go, oh, that's right, the US Open's on. I better check the lead. It won't be that, but it's just early in the week. Maybe a bit more excited last week with the qualifying. I love that day. I think if you're a golf fan, that just throws up all those good stories. But yeah, just not yet. I don't.
Yeah, well, we come from Women's US Open barely 2 weeks ago.
We played well there.
Yep.
We won.
We did.
You know, we're a bit tired from that.
And then another women's major next week. If you count senior majors in there, they bob in everywhere else. And then, by the end of July, start of August, it's all done.
Compared to 5-10 years ago, this was an unimaginable sort of thing. When some of us were probably saying this is what we need. Now we've got it. It just feels like a bit of fatigue.
Yeah, I agree.
It's too much big time golf in too short a window.
Yeah. Let's get some details on the course. And Logue, you're going to tell us all that we need to know about Oakmont.
Well, yes, Oakmont Country Club it's set on a rolling bluff.
Oh, yeah, I love a bluff.
Hard to find these days, too. Might be one of the last ever built on a bluff.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Elevation?
I don't.
I would have thought a bluff means it's up higher than the Sahali.
Now he's going to try and bluff us on how many Sahalis it is and pretend he knows.
Yeah, given how little elevation Sahali actually has, I think it's probably at least a couple of Sahalis, but I don't know actually. But it was opened in 1903, and it was the only design of Henry Fownes. And in many ways, I think Oakmont's a unique course. There's a very good piece that Garrett Morrison wrote for the Fried Egg, which describes Oakmont as being one of a kind and never repeated. And I think that's quite true. And there's another course that comes to mind like that, which is the Old Course. And also Fownes actually had this rationale to his placement of the bunkers of just like looking at where people are hitting the ball, and that's where he's going to put it.
And then punish them.
Yeah, exactly. Then punish them. And his philosophy was that, I just want a bad shot to cost a shot.
Yeah.
And so this is like a penal course in that sense. But I think it's not penal in the purely basic way where it's just bunker left, right, and hitting over hazards and that sort of thing. It's penal in all sorts of ways that get you.
That's right.
Everything from the tilt of the fairways, I think, adds to that, and the firmness of the greens and the shape of the greens as well, which have been restored to something resembling what Fownes put into the ground by Gil Hance in 2023. So, yeah, the greens sort of reach out, and there's lots of little tongues in interesting places. And this is a place where if you miss the green, you're going to have a hard time getting up and down. And with firm greens as well, as I hope they'll be, although the weather looks like it was closing in a little bit, we will see these players struggle quite a lot with getting the ball to hold. Of course, the rough is a big point of conversation in the lead up to this. And fun fact, there's a there's a member apparently who has a metal shop, and he worked with the green staff to create special blades that could mow like they could fit them to the Toro motors, to the Toro mowers to like mow at like 5 inches or something like that instead of 3.5, which the factory default blades were restricted to.
Club of sadists, isn't it? Like you've got to be a bit of a masochist to be a member. Yeah. You've got to be a sadist to want to subject other people.
Well, famously, they have the furrowed bunkers, but I don't think they do that for the US Open.
No, I don't believe so.
And generally, I think the members play the golf course harder than it gets set up for the Open.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where the members would say to a player, "Oh, you should see it when we play on a
right.
Wednesday."
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. Yeah,
You've been here for the Wednesday. 26 points won it.
Yeah, the greens are set to roll at 14.5 or something for the members, and it's just 14 for the Open. They actually slow them down for the Open.
You know, the stimp meter was invented here.
yeah, it was
correct.
indeed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like, the members actually tuck the pins in all sorts of spots that they just won't do for the Open because it just won't be practical. You have Phil Mickelson scooping his ball up all over the place if you did. So
I'd almost forgotten that.
it was nicknamed the Ugly Brute. And it's now sort of like treeless. So, you know, if the wind blows in 2016, it was very wet. So I don't think we saw, that was its own penalty in a way, but I don't think we saw the ball rolling around and pinballing off into the rough as much as it might have. And certainly the greens were probably pretty receptive back in 2016. But if the wind gets up and we've got extremely narrow fairways here, and again, there's that tilt on the fairways, and if they can keep it reasonably firm, which they'll be really conscious of, I think we're going to have a winning score over par.
Very much could be, yeah, for sure. The winning history here is one of the best.
It's elite.
So you start for US Opens with Tommy Armour. Bobby Jones managed to win a US Amateur there. Gene Sarazen managed to win a PGA Championship there. And then you go like Snead, Hogan, Nicklaus, Miller, Larry Nelson, Ernie Els. It's just quite remarkable, and that's not even in getting into the sort of modern age after 2000. It's one of the standout US Open.
And interestingly, none of those players have won the Wednesday comp at Oakmont. So that goes to show you just how tough the course plays, doesn't it?
Very true.
Yeah. Now, it was 07, I think, when Cabrera won.
Yes, it was.
In the third round, I think Tiger shot 1 under, and he said after the round, "I can't play any better than that." And as John Huggins pointed out, ever since when he gets the opportunity, is there something wrong with a golf course that the best golfer we've ever seen playing what he called his best golf could only shoot 1 under? It's a fine line, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's this debate every time around how they set these golf courses up, and a golf course like this as to what do people want to see? Do they want to see them struggle and pull their hair out, or do they want to see the best golf win? Because the best golf doesn't necessarily...
What's the definition of that? Any golf tournament is a combination of the course you're playing, the players who are playing it that week, and whoever has the lowest score wins. I think they got it right at the US Women's Open a couple of weeks ago, the setup. It was very close to borderline, but they got it pretty right. If we see that again this week, if it's possible to do, then I think that's what we saw in 07. And if I recall, I listened to Derek Duncan's Feed the Ball. It looks like he's doing these major course previews, and they're fantastic. He did this one with Ron Whitten and Mike Davis, who set the course up in both 06 and 07 and 2016.
Great golf mind, Mike Davis.
Yeah,
fabulous.
You can say what you will about him, but he's
could do with a microphone. Mike, get yourself a microphone. You do enough podcast stuff. Get a microphone that'll make it easy to listen to. But he talked about in 07, plus 5 won it, and not a single player complained about anything.
Was Aaron Badley in the final?
He was leading. He led by 4.
Something.
He had a double on the first, I think.
I think he made 7 or 8 on the first.
Yeah, he was just out
hit it over
straight
near the
away.
back of the green there. Someone just faffed around for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
A little bit like that poor Spanish lass on the last at the US Women's Open. It was just, except it happened to him on the first. It's like, okay, you got to play another 17, maybe, but it's kind of done.
It's kind of done, but there's also less people watching.
He got ejected from the coverage.
Yeah, that's right. That's the
quickly.
instant drop him.
Was he playing with Tiger?
I think
been,
it was maybe. Yeah. On to players that we're starting to talk about. Let's talk about the players in this year's field. And Rod, you're going to give us a little who to watch out for.
Oh, well, watch out for anybody who's made the field, I guess. If you're there with a set of golf clubs, you're a chance, but they're not all equal chances, of course. The obvious ones, Scheffler. Do you need to make a case? If he just keeps playing like Scotty Scheffler, he's going to be there, isn't he?
Here's my concern about Scheffler is that I think he's going to be very accurate, which is like he's all about getting the ball in play, which is going to be extremely important around here. But he's just not going to do that for 72 holes. He's going to make mistakes. And I don't know how I don't think he's any good out of the rough. I just don't think. I think he's.
Rate him?
No.
He's not in your league out of the rough, dare we say it? It's not one area of the game you could take a tip.
No, I think if you compare him to Bryce, like Scheffler has a much shallower sort of approach to the ball, and I don't think he
doesn't work great for long run.
Can really attack it the way Bryson does.
His frustrations appear more evident when there's rough on the golf course.
Yeah,
because he doesn't necessarily judge it as well as maybe others do. And then his frustrations show, and when he's frustrated, it's noticeable.
Yeah.
And when he's frustrated, he doesn't play very good golf.
Just thinking about previous winners here, Cabrera, very sort of mercurial type player. Johnny Miller, aggressive, relentless firer at flags. Perhaps it suits more, you might be right, maybe more that sort of player who is used to hitting out of the rough a bit more often and has a technique.
I think he'll be thereabouts, but this US Open is going to be all about mistakes and how much they compound. Yeah, and I just think he's going to make some mistakes. It's inevitable unless he plays absolutely perfect golf.
I agree.
And if he does make mistakes, I think he could put some big numbers on it. And the putting obviously is always an issue.
Yeah, and this will be brutal.
This will be
really make Augusta look like the practice green possible.
You leave yourself a lot of really tricky comeback putts for pars that are 4 or 5 feet, and there's a bit to them.
Yeah, like Augusta, 4 feet one side of the hole is a completely different notion to 4 feet on the other side of the hole. And the side breaking putts are the ones that really get the pros because they're such a combination of speed and line. You've got to get it right. So.
But then that's the irony, isn't it? That not particularly great putters do well at Augusta. So I don't know.
Except you get like a Jordan.
Not particularly great putters are the last 2 winners, Cabrera and Johnson. Not great putters statistically.
Yeah.
Very instinctual putters. Not unlike the way they play the golf course.
The game, that's right. Yeah.
Is see shot, hit shot.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, quite a good US Open thing to have. Yes, you hit it straight off the tee, you've got to be a chance, but I think it's very much judging each one.
When you're not straight off the tee, you have to not lose your mind about it as you walk into your ball, perhaps because you're a bit used to it over the course of your career. So, sort of hard to say. So, Scheffler, that's good analysis, Logue. I like that. And he can't stay as hot as he
That's why he's our Logue.
That's why he's our Logue. That's why we adopted him.
Yeah, that's right.
I think
just
when he invented Ben Griffin, that was the final piece. Welcome in. So, look, Scheffler, I think he'll be, even not playing his best golf, I still think he'll be around it.
Yeah.
And if he's around it, he could win it. But I agree. I don't think he's quite the favourite that we've seen in the last couple. McIlroy, just fascinating. Awful. Genuinely awful at the Canadian Open. Couldn't have been worse. The complete opposite of the bouncing. It's interesting. He talked about motivation prior, and the narrative is changing. Maybe having achieved his lifelong dream, now he's finding it hard to find the motivation. That could be true. Clates once wrote this about Arnold Palmer. Nobody would have believed that as Arnold Palmer walked off the 18th of the 1964 Masters at the age of 34, that would be his last major. Yep. This happens. It happens to all players.
Tom Watson.
Tom Watson. Yeah, you would never have said, that's it for him. And that may be. On the flip side, maybe all of this chatter, a bit like Bob Drum before the 86 Masters, which fired up Jack Nicklaus. Bob Drum said he's got no hope. And then he goes out and wins. It could go either way. You can't write off Rory McIlroy on one bad performance. But you wouldn't be particularly confident if you were McIlroy pulling into the car park this week. That was a genuinely awful performance. He was 22 shots behind the leader.
I wonder if
22 shots.
Rory's one that often needs something to spark him along. Yeah. Career Grand Slam was obviously one of them, but when there's talk and chatter, that gets the best out of him. I think the driver thing clearly frustrated him to immense levels.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think
he would have felt targeted, and as he should have.
And I think going into last week, there's added pressure of he's the biggest show in town and everything that's going on. Scotty wins and that. And I think maybe that wasn't there for a Canadian Open. But by the time he gets down to Oakmont, there's this, I'm going to show him. And it maybe has a bit more. But
a couple of times we've seen him since the Masters, he has not looked euphoric.
No.
He's not looked like the guy who's walking on air having achieved his dream.
No.
Almost looks like it's become a greater burden.
Yeah.
He's dealt with him. Jeff Ogilvy, I was asking him, what was the years ago, what's the most surprising thing about winning the US Open? He said, well, suddenly everything you say apparently has merit. Yeah. So you stop saying things. Now you move it. Now Rory's lived in that world for a long time, but it's amped up again. Every time you get introduced, you're the career Grand Slam winner.
Yeah.
Maybe that's, I don't know. But listen, you can't write off McIlroy. He only has to have one good swing, is the other thing.
Correct.
He could be standing on the range Thursday morning and go, that's it. Take that swing thought out, and he might be unbeatable. So, but you're not tipping after what we saw, his last couple of outings, actually. It wasn't just last week. It was the previous time we saw him.
For someone who notoriously struggles with keeping big scores off his card. Like, I think this is a place that's going to expose
There's
that.
8s waiting on this golf course, aren't there? And that's a real gut punch if you're a top-flight professional golfer. Making a triple or a quad really does sort of...
US Opens are all about turning those into bogeys.
Yes, exactly right. And careers are made out of turning 75 into 72, aren't they? And that's the sort of golf you'll be faced with here. So the other two, I think, and I think everyone pretty much agrees, you'd look to Rahm and DeChambeau. If you're asked for 4 players, these are the 4 that you'd pick. What we'd love to see on Sunday afternoon is all 4 of them in it, going head-to-head. We rarely see that in golf. Rahm probably gets the nod in that department. To me, he's a more complete player. His performance in the majors this year has been better than it was last year. He was incredibly disappointing last year. He's been close-ish this year to some of his best play. I think he'll like the golf course. He's got the game that really suits it. DeChambeau, hard to say. I think the long grass around the greens probably plays in his favour. You watch him at the Masters and the Open where you tend to get short grass around greens, and he just doesn't have the same creativity as some of the other players. No, he hasn't got a bad short game. But with long grass around the greens, everyone's playing the same kind of shot.
I think there's some mowing down areas as well.
There's a few. There's like little pockets and whatnot, but you wouldn't be trying to hit them.
Yeah. I just think Bryson's brilliant at those shots. So the stuff out of the rough around the greens and just he's become really good around the greens.
And having said that, though, if he thinks there's some weakness with his short game on short grass, we know he'll just go and fix it.
Yeah,
correct.
It's unbelievable the way he has just gone about building a golf game. So, so look, you'd expect Bryson to be, and of course he has got the length, perhaps more so than just about anybody else. So they're the obvious, and then I think we go to the interesting. I just had a look at the odds and see what the bookies are thinking, because obviously they've got skin in the game.
Yes.
They've got Xander, Morikawa, Ludwig in that sort of second tier. Justin Thomas one further down. My tip, it's going to be my tip shortly, but I think Shane Lowry is kind of the man this week. We know that he led there going into the final round in 2016, so he can play the course well. He's been playing well this year without finishing it off. Now, that's been all on him, which means it's fixable. He hasn't been outplayed, or for the most part, he's been there or thereabouts in his own problem. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's been thinking about this major since the end of last year. Had it very much on his mind, and he's probably trying to set himself up for that. He's at generous odds, I think, for $51. I think I saw him on one site, 50 to 1. Feels long to me. That feels generous. I think he'll be there towards the end. Tommy Fleetwood. There's a whole raft of players that you know stand up in bigger events. Which ones will it be this week? Who knows? And the other sort of, I had a look at the leaderboard from 2016. There's lots of those sort of second tier players. Scott Piercy, which I know will impress you, Logan. A Kevin Chappell, perhaps. If we've got a Kevin Chappell in the field. But the Bud Cawleys, Davis Rileys, Jake Knapp, these young guys.
Was Andrew Putnam? I think he only lasted 3 rounds.
Yes, Mick Taylor had a similar thing for me. I was feeling great after 2 rounds.
I think a Dean Burmester is
that sort of thing. A Ryan Fox playing as is no reason.
Ryan
US Opens deliver them, but Oakmont particularly delivers them. Angel Cabrera, no one expected to win a US Open.
No.
Aaron Baddeley, no one expected it. Aaron Baddeley's one of the... I love Bads. Let me just precursor.
Yes.
One of the worst drivers of the golf ball who's been an elite player I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And so you teeing it up at a US Open at Oakmont, you just put a line through Bads.
Straight through it, yeah.
And for 54 holes, that was proven incorrect. So I think US Opens deliver that, but Oakmont particularly delivers that.
Yeah, agreed. So look, I think it'll be having just said, I'm not as excited about it as I might normally be. I really do think it's going to be a fantastic and compelling US Open. I think it'll be a really good balance, I hope, between... I think you're right, Logan. I think it'll be over par, but it won't feel like over par.
No.
That's
so,
it'll...
Or maybe going with like one winner under par or something like that. That's it.
Yes. Well, Johnson was 3 under last time, and 1 under was next best, so he won it by 2.
Actually, he was probably about 5 or 6 under, but there was
an incident.
Well, we remember the incident. Remember the drive and 6 iron on the 18th.
Yeah,
that was just such a full stop and an exclamation mark on the tournament. You can't take this away.
One of the greatest shot traces ever.
Yeah.
That drive on that hole and the drive at Chambers Bay the year before on the 18th. 2 of the greatest drives I've ever seen. Under the circumstances, amazing.
Yeah, so much for DJ now, though.
Yeah,
so we'll go with some tips, and Rod, you're going with Shane Lowry.
I'm going to go with Shane Lowry, yeah.
Nice. Logue?
Look, the obvious ones, Scheffler there, McIlroy, just too many question marks about Rory. Rahm I really like, but again, we've only just seen that one little glimmer of form. And Morikawa, should be really
feels
good
like
here.
But it's right up his alley, isn't it?
But again,
he's no Johnny Miller, though, is he?
Confidence in him. I think Xander Schauffele is just always this menace lurking and potentially just going to keep performing well. He's not the sort of player. You know that he's not performing at the moment, but you know that he's there grinding away. Like golf means everything to him.
Yep. Absolutely.
And he's going to have one of these decades-long careers. He's not going to be a player who just let himself like lose motivation or something like that. You just can't imagine that with Xander Schauffele. He'll be back, and it may well be this week. Yep. So Xander Schauffele for me.
Nice. I am going to go with Jon Rahm. I think there's that underlying bubble of intensity as to I can still do this and people doubt me. It may get knocked a little bit, but again, he was top 10 in the live event last week. That's 21 straight, every event since he's played there.
So his base is extremely high.
That's right. And he's not playing that well.
He's not playing that well. No.
And he's just constantly beating good players. Yeah. He showed a lot at the PGA, and then the back nine just jumped up and got him.
Yep. I think at Augusta, I think he was 5 over through the first 7 or something at Augusta and still finished. He played with Scheffler in the last round, so he finished top 10. And I
think he's got, we talked about Scheffler maybe with the rough and questions. I think Rahm with that just... you'd call it, if he was from Australia, he'd be a country strength kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
Just they're farm strong.
Farm boy.
He might have never lifted a weight, but then you go, hey, can you pick up that car? Yeah, no problem.
You'd see him at the Easter show chopping.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's
as a side gig.
That is what you need to hit it out at this kind of rough. You need that just brute strength that doesn't change how you go about something.
Yeah, I think he and Bryson can actually go at the green from the rough, whereas a lot of other people are just it's going to be a chip out.
And Rahm's short game is often forgotten, but so very good.
You just don't get there if you're not brilliant.
It's going to be really important this week, and hitting good wedge shots, because if you do have to punch out of the rough, you're going to have to hit the next one close to avoid a big score. And that's where I see Rory. Obviously, he arrested that issue at Augusta, but that's always Rory's issue. Bryson's wedge distance control is poor, and Scheffler isn't an elite wedge player necessarily. So that's the 4 main ones. I feel there's question marks, whereas Rahm doesn't necessarily.
Any sort of controversy early in the week that fires Rahm up, just give him the trophy. Once he's in that raging bull mode, he's almost unstoppable.
And a big appreciator of history of golf as well. He'll know what this golf course means. He'll understand what's the play.
He'd sit very comfortably alongside Cabrera and Johnny Miller, wouldn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
As a champion at Oakmont.
Absolutely.
He fit the mould perfectly.
Absolutely.
Really good putter too. There's so much, there's a lot to like.
One of those players who, like I said earlier, sees the shot and hits the shot.
Yeah.
And when he drives the ball well, very straight. When it gets away from him, it goes quickly. But
a little bit like Koepka as well. Like just these few occasions during the year when he's actually playing against all the best in the world is what gets him up.
Absolutely.
So much for Koepka. Is it enough though to bring the performance with it? That's the question about Liv. Do you get enough of this? If he was playing the PGA Tour, he might have already had a head-to-head or two with McIlroy or Scheffler or one of these other guys. Doesn't seem to happen. Rahm keeps ticking it over. DeChambeau keeps ticking it over. Neiman's the third wheel in that thing that keeps the whole thing sort of ticking over. And they produce interesting golf, between them. But it's not the same as...
No.
It's just you're not quite battle ready when you get to the biggest battle.
We may as well get an outsider before we have a look at the Australians in the field. So, Rod, we'll go back to you first for your outsider.
Well, I thought about...
Oh, okay.
Aaron Rai.
Yep.
For all the reasons I outlined a couple of weeks ago. But I think he's probably not quite long enough to genuinely contend here. So I'd tell you I do like is Siwoo Kim, who would not be outside the mould of Angel Cabrera, Johnny Miller, Rahm, that sort of game, aggressive. The putter might be really... When you putt the way he does with that long putter, it sort of suggests things, and I don't know how comfortable he'll be on the greens. But as we said earlier, it actually might work in his favour.
Yep.
Unless you're Jordan Spieth, who's got the gift that he did for a couple of years, just holing from 25 feet on really difficult greens. Not many of those players around. That's very hard to do. So perhaps that evens it a bit. I'd probably put Ben Hahn in the same category, but Siwoo Kim, I think.
Nice. Logue?
I think this is a genuine outsider, but I'd mentioned him before, and it's a complete shot in the dark. But Dean Burmester,
nice.
He's a big hitter. That's what I'm basing that on, really.
I believe they call him Mean Dean Burmester.
Do they?
On Live Golf. Yeah.
He's a bit Ryan Fox too, isn't he?
He is, absolutely.
Big unit, smashes it out there, walks up and finds it, smacks it again.
Yep. And another one who will internally feel like he walks through the gates as a genuine contender.
Yep.
There's no lack of belief for Dean Burmester.
Multiple winner. Yeah.
I'm also going to go with a complete outsider. This is new for us. I'm going to go with Johnny Vegas.
Oh, nice.
Showed a bit at the PGA. Hits it a long way.
highly sceptical about this.
Another farm strong kind
It's an
of player.
outsider.
It's a genuine outsider.
But is he going to do it a
if he
second
finishes
major
in
in
the
a row?
top 10,
Like,
that's
Well, he had a taste at the PGA and sort of coughed it up. Didn't seem to like the flavour so much, but
that's okay.
first and only time there though.
You've got to have a learning experience.
Lovely bloke.
Yeah, great fella.
Genuinely nice bloke.
Yeah, absolutely. Came out and played the Aussie PGA 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Just a gem.
Good call. I'd love to say that'd be a great story.
Yeah, I'm cheering for the story here, Lo. Get off my
no
back.
slide on Johnny Vegas, but yeah.
Well, that was a slide on Johnny Vegas.
Tell you what, you wouldn't want to slide Johnny Vegas.
No,
like
you
you had
wouldn't.
you and Ferguson, you might pay a high price.
Yeah. Let's get on to the Australians in the field and the contingent 12-6 when Mark Leishman managed to navigate final qualifying last week and get a spot alongside Cam Davis, Jason Day, Minwoo Lee, Adam Scott and his Ripper GC captain Cam Smith. I think Leishman's probably the most interesting of the group. Yep. So I spoke to him last week after his qualifying. He said, I never liked the US Open. I never liked the mental drain that it comes with it and everything like that. But as the end of my sort of majors consistently came, I started to appreciate it more. And now he is very much in the mood to go and play well at these golf tournaments. So it's his first major since 2022. Wow. That was when he had his best US Open finish, which was at Brookline. Previous to that, his best US Open finish was at Oakmont. He's played the golf course a lot. His manager or agent, Bud Martin, is a member there. He went up there not long ago with his dad and Bud and played. He said he loves the members. He said it reminds him of home. It's very much Mark Leishman sort of golf. He says, I'm driving the golf ball better than I ever have. He's won a live event this year, obviously got through final qualifying and then had a good week last week. So I think he is an interesting sort of a opportunity here for the Australians. Otherwise, Cam Davis has played 2 US Opens and missed the cut both times.
It's a bit of a surprise, actually.
You would have thought it would suit very well, but he's played them at golf courses that aren't very US Open-y. So he played Pinehurst number 2 and he played LACC.
Okay.
So not Oakmont at all. So Cam Davis is a bit of a surprise packet, I suppose, just considering event history and also form this year has been
And big events. He likes the big
kind
events.
of all around it. So he could be a bit of a surprise. Jason Day, probably the most likely of our contingent at the US Open. He's finished second twice. He has played at Oakmont. He finished tied 8th in 2016. So there's course history, there's tournament history. I think we're still waiting for Jason to actually follow through with what everyone thinks he's got at the moment.
The comeback's just sort of faltered, hasn't it? He hasn't gone backwards. It's just sort of faltered at a certain level. So
Yeah, there's just something that's not quite going for Jason at the bigger events, I should say. Minwoo Lee, surprisingly, 3 cuts made from 3 US Opens. You wouldn't pick Minwoo as a US Open player.
Which course? Same courses again?
Yeah, Pinehurst, LACC and Brookline.
More his sort of golf.
More his sort of a stuff. So it's a small sample size that maybe isn't accurate, but big events, this is going to be huge crowd-wise. Yeah. That's Minwoo's
and his
kind
profile is going up and up and up. He'll have some support there. There'll be a few of the chef's hats around, and he loves that. It really does help him play better.
And I think Australia, we see him as he's going to be up there every single time. Minwoo's going to be a hit and miss player.
He's more Mickelson than
he is more mercurial than he is Adam Scott.
Yeah.
So again, rough and everything like that. Minwoo looks like he weighs 60 kilos dripping wet. He is strong. So he's not going to have a problem with that. Adam Scott plays his 24th US Open.
Amazing. And 100 and something majors?
Almost at 100 consecutive majors.
What a figure in the
he
game.
would hit.
Is he going to make it?
I think he will hit it next year at maybe the US Open.
Oh, okay.
But he has to get into all
He's
of
got
them.
to get in.
He's got to get into the...
So US Opens have been they've been the trouble. He had to go back to final qualifying
he's got to get
last
into the PGA.
year.
Only just, mate. Was he like last man in the field last
He got
year?
beaten by Cam Davis in a playoff at final qualifying and then got either in as an alternate or a special exemption. So it's right on there. It's not been Adam's best major. Best finish of tied for 4th, 14 cuts made. Of course, over that period, has played 2 US Opens at Oakmont, missed the cut in 2007 and finished tied 18th in 2016. So bit of inconsistency. You wouldn't have necessarily picked Adam, but I know he's there earlier than pretty much every other player.
Yeah.
Getting ready, he's very much schedule driven and knows what he's doing. And if you spoke to Adam, you'd still get I think I've got a chance for one more.
And I think he does.
Yeah,
I don't think it'll be this week. I would certainly not be surprised if he's the best of the Australians because I think experience of really difficult golf will count here.
I agree.
And that might drive younger players mad, but Scott will know a double bogey's just a double bogey, keep going forward. So,
and another one who loves the history of golf and would love the venue, would love everything about Oakmont, you can imagine. And similarly to Leishman saying, reminds me of home, I'd say it'd be a similar sort of a thing for Adam.
One swing Thursday morning for Adam Scott. Who knows? If he starts hitting his driver as well as he possibly can, no reason he can't be.
Yeah. The earlier mention for some of those big players, the wedge play being important, that's often been an overlooked struggle for Adam, I think. So that will be his concern. And then Cam Smith, the mystery that is Cam Smith and major championship golf remains. He's played 9 US Opens. He's made the cut 6 times. Best finish at the US Open of 4th, which he's done twice. So he's tied 4th at James Bay, but then he was also 4th in 2023 at LACC. So pretty decent sort of a record. He made the cut, but barely for Oakmont in 2016. He finished tied 59th.
Different golfer then.
Very different golfer. So it's a bit of a mystery, to be honest, for Cam. You don't know what version's going to show up. The form on Live hasn't been consistent either. Driver is Cam's biggest concern, and when you get to a week like this, it becomes a significant concern. But
you only have to hit one bad one too, don't you?
He will
fix the rest of the round.
He will more than likely keep the big scores off if he doesn't drive it well, because he is such a good wedge player and short game sort of exponent. But it's hard to see Cam, based off form and based off golf course, being our best. So who do we think is going to be our best? And I'm going to lead it, and I'm going to take Mark Leishman.
I found this one really hard to pick because none of them have really stood out in any way recently, have they? You can't point to an Australian and go, yeah, great form there, or particular form. I'm going to go with Adam Scott based on experience. I think he'll make the cut, and that might be enough.
Yep.
It really might.
Yeah, it could be. Yep. Loke?
Well, I genuinely thought about Leishman, and your overview there gave me no reason to move away, except that you picked him.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm going to go with Min Woo Lee because I think it's a month or a couple of months since his win now. And you say, like you say, he's streaky, but this course isn't a good fit. I feel it's not a good fit, but who cares with him? Like, I just think
very fair.
It could be fine. And the rough, I do think he can actually probably hit it out of the rough, and maybe this will trigger something in his imagination as well, looking at this golf course, seeing the shots.
I think Min Woo is one of those players. You won't ever be able to look at him in his career and say the golf course doesn't suit him. There's no chance, because he'll prove you wrong.
Yeah, he's a bit Mickelson-like. Mickelson should never have contended at a US Open. He's finished six times, six times or something. He should never have been there. And Min Woo, he's maturing nicely, his game, Min Woo. Mickelson started really contending once he learnt you don't have to be Phil Mickelson all the time.
Correct.
And Min Woo will learn that at some point. Could be this week.
Yeah, absolutely. There is some other action on this week with the LPGA at the Meijer LPGA Classic for Simply Give. And Rod, simply give us some details.
I will indeed.
Thank you.
It's pay that. You could use that in next week's opener.
Yeah, okay.
The Any Golf Podcast to make a funny joke in the history of tipping golf tournaments. It's a shame this is up against the US Open in so many ways, because it's actually a really interesting tournament. This is kind of the golf model. We've talked about this before, the tournament model that built the PGA Tour, and it's sort of grown out of that, but is really very much a charitable thing. So Meijer, the sponsor, they're owners of supercenter shopping centers. They, in fact, invented the idea of having both groceries and other stuff, very popular in America. 14th biggest company in America, perhaps? I don't know that I don't think their stores are actually called Meijer, but that's sort of the company.
Is it an American origin company? Or,
yes. So
I'm suspicious of this J that's pronounced Y.
Dutch founder.
Okay, thank you. That's all I need to know.
That northeast corner there up Wisconsin. So it's in Milwaukee as the tournament's being played. How about this? I love the nuggets you fall over sometimes, because I was intrigued by this notion. Here's a quote from their history page. The store, this is their first store they built. The store was built with 6-inch thick floors so that should the concept fail, the non-grocery half could be converted into an indoor car dealership. That makes great sense, doesn't it? New stores were built in the same manner until the mid-1970s, when an architect mentioned the extra cost to management. And then they stopped building their buildings that way.
So we've always done it this way.
Yeah, that's right.
You never know. We could pivot
half
to
of our
cars.
stores could
be cars.
Yeah, we need to pivot to cars any day now.
It's fabulous, isn't it? One of the very best. That's funny and that's good fun. But what I really like about this, it's the Meijer LPGA Classic for Simply Give. Extraordinary program this Meijer runs. collecting money for local food pantries. So what they do is give them cards so they can buy what they need as opposed to donating stuff to them. I really love the idea. They're aiming to raise $1.3 million this year. That's a daunting task. Grand Rapids is the nearest city.
Yep.
200,000 people. It's not exactly a massive pool to be like, maybe try to do that in Sydney, Jimmy.
Exactly.
Anyway, that might give you a little bit of hope back in the world. $10 to get in, flat fee, $25 for a 4-day pass, and most of the food stalls on course. $4 is the most you can spend on food, any single item. So they're doing it right. It's a real community event. You can see it gets great support from the locals. The golf is probably more what we're interested in, though. Blythefield Country Club, a Langford and Moreau design. You might know a bit more about them, Logue. The little bit that I know is that I've heard them mentioned on the Friday podcast a bunch of times. Do you know much? I know they did a lot of work up in this part of the US.
Like one of the great architecture teams.
Yeah.
This is a fantastic example of their work as well. Like known for greens that sort of spread out quite a lot and have lots of interesting
course looks
shapes.
Fantastic. The pictures I've seen, it's more difficult to find photos.
Very strategic sets.
Short grass around the greens though. There's a long par 4, sort of great piece from the local TV station. There's a long par 3, 241 yards off the back tee. You got to walk across this sort of man-made bridge across a river to get to it. The bridge is called the Bridge of Sighs. As you can imagine, people just walk off the arm. It's 241 yards.
That's good.
The Bridge of Sighs. I just thought that was magnificent. I don't think the LPGA play from that back tee. There's a forward tee on the other side of the water, so that'll be interesting. It really looks like a very, very nice and interesting golf course, so I'm sort of looking forward to it. Again, Jimmy, scheduling a problem. US Open 2 weeks ago, KPMG next week. You just can't expect that the world's top players are just going to tee it up 4 weeks in a row when 2 of those events are majors. And the other 2 are pretty important events on the calendar as well. So we're missing a lot of the top 10. Most decided to play last week at the ShopRite. So Nelly's not there, Gino, Ronnie Yin, there's a whole bunch of those who you'd normally do. Lydia Ko, obviously, Charlie Hull. There's plenty of good players there, though, as we tend to see with the LPGA. Lilia Vu's defending. Heian Yu is... What is she? She almost won the Chevron, didn't she? She's got to win something at some point soon. She's just too good. So you'd be keeping an eye. Rio Takeda. It's a real Japanese movement on the LPGA, isn't it? Rio Takeda, the Iway sisters, and Mao Saigo, of course. Although I don't think Mao Saigo's playing this week. So you'd keep an eye on all those. One that Dean Herden mentioned to me, I love the caddies. The caddies know. And he said the Japanese player to watch is Miyu Yamashita. 18th in the world, 23 years old. He said she is the real deal.
Okay.
Now, bit like Rio Takeda and Mao Saigo, she's going to creep up on a lot of fans. She's going to be my tip this week. Australians in the field: Hannah, Gabby Ruffles, Grace Kim, who lost in a playoff last year to Lilia Vu, Minji, Sarah. See how we can just do first names now for the Australian women.
Mention that every week.
You're really on board with this, aren't you?
Yeah, I really am. This is my contribution. It's my legacy in the game. Sarah, Steph, Hira Naveed, Cassie Porter, Karis Davidson, and Robin Choi.
Nice.
Actually, she's not going to be my tip. Who did I say was going to be my tip? Miyu Yamashita. No, I'm actually changing my mind now. I've forgotten. I didn't read all my notes. I had to scroll down the page. I'm going to tip Hee-Jin Choi. I think he'll be one of the lesser profile players. And she just keeps bobbing up on the TV.
Yeah.
Just about every week I turn at some point during the Sunday round, you'll see Hee-Jin Choi. She'll be somewhere around near there. She played out here quite a bit, I think, in Australia.
Dubbo?
No, I didn't see her at Dubbo.
Okay.
Perhaps that's the missing piece of the puzzle for Hee-Jin Choi. She skipped Dubbo for the Women's New South Wales. I think she played a lot of didn't the Japanese national team?
They did.
And the Korean national team, they used to come out here and
Japanese national team, particularly the men, but the women as well through Gareth Jones, and they'd come and play Australian Opens and all that sort of stuff.
We forget Hee-Jin Choi almost won the US Open as an amateur in 2017. Hit it in the water on the 71st hole. Otherwise, she was just about home and hosed. Hey?
Well, I had forgotten.
Well, now you haven't. Yeah. You're back with us.
Of course, Grace Kim lost in a playoff here.
Yeah, that's right, to Lilia Vu, which is great shame. But yeah, Grace has been struggling a bit. Nothing better for a golfer than to go back to a golf course where they've played well before.
Lexi Thompson also in that playoff, whose retirement continues to be a constant source of discussion.
She's now walking it back. Is that what's happened? She's walking it back?
Her argument is she never said she was retiring. She said she was not going to play a full schedule, but many people have dragged up the things that she did say, and that it was basically a farewell tour that she openly engaged in. And there was a suspicion from someone that sponsors would require X number of events played per year, so to keep getting her sponsorship money. You might have to play other events.
That's cynical,
There's
isn't it? But possible.
All sorts of other cynical discussions around why and how and whatever. And
She's always had this checkered career in that way. She's one of the first full-time social media. Like, she's grown up with social media and becoming a golfer. And we talked about this before. Just she's spoken about how difficult it's been at various times. All that. I remember her playing here at the age of 14 or 15 in the Australian Women's Open. And she was a genuine, like she was a contender. You know, she was such a good player that maybe it's just you always felt that off-course stuff she finds difficult and quite crushing.
That's never been handled that well, but also it's been more intense than anyone before it has ever had from a younger age. So it's
the downside of having your own social media accounts. As a player, you can understand why so many of them just get someone else to manage it and put sponsor messages.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Because it's followed her for almost her whole career.
Absolutely. Logue, a tip from you?
Well, I thought about Lilia Vu, but just haven't really seen enough
She's not
from
the same
her
Lilia
this
Vu
year.
anymore,
But,
is she?
Jennifer Kupcho last one.
Yeah, well, that's right. You might have just given Lilia Vu the leg up she needs.
But I mean, much as I sort of invented Ben Griffin, I feel like I invented your Takeda. I've been on her for a long time now.
That's
and
very cool.
I'm sticking with that.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
That's a genuine you invented claim. I have
way before
various issues.
Even before
with
she got
Ben
a tour
Griffin.
card.
Yeah, I've got various issues with the Ben Griffin claim, but her, I will give that as that's some of your best work. I'm going to go with Lynn Grant again, who had a little bit of a break since top 10 at the US Women's Open, and she was tied for fourth the week before that. Seems like a kind of venue that should suit. I know she's been sort of taking time away from a golf course, which is good for someone like her. Hasn't played here before, to my knowledge, either. So
could go either way.
Could go either way. So interesting that Skip's last week comes into this week, but you never know.
I don't know. What would you do if you were a player? Would you want to play the week before? What if you just happen to have a great week and win, and it's like, because it's almost never done.
Yeah.
Almost nobody wins the week before, then wins a major. I think Mickelson did it at the Masters.
Yes, he did. Yep.
Tom Kite, perhaps the year he won the US Open, but it's pretty rare to have won either the week before or the week after.
The mental application to be in contention and win, to then try and go and get ready for a major championship the next week, I think is such a big thing to...
And so much more attention in between times. Ben Hogan could win one and have a week off and literally not have to talk to anybody or read anything about him. So it's just not possible these days.
You can imagine if you're not much of a practicer that you'd go and play a tournament. If you're not a ball hitter and all that sort of stuff, it would be hard to get yourself right for the week after if you're not that way driven or inclined. But it's a difficult thing. And none of them have ever stuck to one method.
No, that's right.
Adam Scott's been through play, don't play. Mickelson was the same. Rory has changed it around. It's interesting.
I think you've mentally got to think of it as an 8-round block that you're getting yourself up for.
Yeah.
There you go. That's my
there you go. That's nice.
Bob Rotella contribution.
From just outside, just OB on the left side.
Yeah. You can't think of it as tournament. Break tournament, you've got to think of it as like this is 2 weeks I've got to be up for.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is you've got to find what works for you. Well, Laura Davies didn't know when she started that, it would be best for her if she played 3 on and had 2 off or whatever suits her might be. You've got to figure that out. That takes a long time because you've actually got to do it. You can't chuck it into AI and get a response. You've got to try all the different ways and see.
Who would do such a thing?
Not that anybody would do that in this game.
Exactly. All right, that will just about do us for episode 116. Rod, I noticed clamps on tables, the smell of paint this morning. What latest plays are there in your empire?
I don't know where the smell of paint came from, but the clamps
Logan
on
I both noticed the smell of something.
I'm not on with the smell of paint.
Might be the heater. Having not been turned on for 2 years. A bit of dust in there burning. The clamps on the tables after you blokes managed to ruin my really carefully thought out system of just placing a piece of timber on top of the table and wondering why it moved. So I put some clamps on there so it can't happen again.
I like that you're taking pride in undoing that, but I'm taking pride in causing change.
Yeah, no, I know.
Being an agent for change is a major
I appreciate it. Jimmy, like golf, life is a journey. It's not a destination.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Logue, we mentioned off the top your likeness to players. It's the time of the week. Who are you likening yourself to this week at a major?
Based on your own play last week and that player's play.
And despite being from a country area, I would not call you functional.
Well, squat.
Yeah.
Who was it?
You just said Leishman said the Oakmont members remind him of home.
Yeah.
I'm not drawing many parallels between Warrnambool and
I think he means Australia.
There's a golf course there. So.
It's a very golfy golf
Is it
course.
set on high bluffs?
Warrnambool's not bluffs. Yeah, I'd say it's bluffy.
Yeah, it's a good call. Good call, yeah.
I don't know the official definition of a bluff, I'll be honest.
Well, look, I'll compare myself to Leishman.
Yeah, I like that.
I think I can sort of bunt it round. And
he's not a ball hitter either. He has to go and play. He's somewhat mercurial. Yeah. I like that.
Good round the green. Oh, sorry.
There you go. It's the person no one would ever think would win a US Open, like Logue when he wins anything. That's good. Yeah, okay. You can, of course, follow all the US Open action in great depth on the Golf Australia magazine website, golfaustralia.com.au, where there's already all sorts of stories populating that website now. And you will hear us again on Playing from the Tips next week. Thank you for listening.